G'day, ZiggyD here, back with another video from the Path of Exile Awakening beta. This video will have no Act 4 spoilers in it. In the beta, the ELDRITCH battery keystone has received a very major mechanics overhaul. Now, a lot of people are writing off this new keystone as useless or not viable or inefficient. In this video, I kind of want to address that. I want to show what I've got working with ELDRITCH battery and why I believe that it does have some potential. Now, the keystone in its current state I don't think is finished. I think ZiggyD still need to put some work into it, especially when it comes to relying on recharge and recharge rate and the recharge delay. If you're building around that with ELDRITCH battery, it really is very non-viable for most builds. And a recent Reddit post by Invalesco did a really good job of highlighting that. He was playing an archer using the new ELDRICH battery keystone, using the recharge rate delay style, investing heavily in recharge rate delay, including uniques and many passives across the tree. His investment in ELDRICH battery was major in terms of uniques and passives, and yet it still was really not supportive of an actual proper playstyle. Now, I do think that style, this recharge rate delay style of ELDRICH battery, does work with things like totem builds maybe, and also probably discharge and oromancers. Like, it has some niche applications, but I think that ZiggyD could put a little bit more work into it, put some extra passives behind the keystone that will be able to make it viable for use across more builds. However, ELDRICH battery as a keystone is not useless overall. I'm playing with the Zealot's Oath ELDRICH battery playstyle, and as you can see in the footage, the background footage, it is more than viable. I am not having any mana problems whatsoever. It's a very small amount of investment in my build. I've invested very little gear into this, and I've invested very little passives as well. Something around the 5 to 6 passives mark seems to be enough to get ELDRICH battery Zealot's Oath working. Not only this, but I think it actually has the potential to be an efficient alternative to mana or blood magic in many spellcaster builds. It allows you to reserve 100% of your mana, or thereabouts, and still be able to cast your spells freely. The new ELDRICH battery keystone even has some potential synergy with Mind Over Matter, which was initially written off when the first post was made that said that Mind Over Matter would bypass Energy Shield. That has since been updated to say that Mind Over Matter will consume Energy Shield, and I think there are some ways that can be built around that. It potentially means that with Mind Over Matter, you'll be able to do things like reserve all of your mana and then have around 1,000 to 1,500 Energy Shield. That's a much larger pool of defensive power than what most Mind Over Matter builds run currently on the live servers, which is usually around 700 to 1,000 mana. Now, of course, mana regen is a much more efficient replacer of that effective life pool, so it won't regenerate as quickly, but you can build around that with Zealot's Oath, and things like Ghost Reaver may have some potential. I haven't fully explored this idea of Mind Over Matter ELDRICH battery in the expansion or in the expansion beta, but I do think there is some potential there. But the rest of this video is going to mostly focus on what I have explored fairly thoroughly, and that is the Zealot's Oath ELDRICH battery style and the efficiencies that has. Now, because some of you guys might be a little bit unsure of how the new ELDRICH battery works, let's break down some of the mechanics. ELDRICH battery, instead of converting Energy Shield to mana like it does on the live servers, now protects your mana pool with your Energy Shield, so it overlays your Energy Shield over the top of your mana. Now, it functions almost the same as Energy Shield does when it's on your life, except for taking damage from monsters. So when you take damage from monsters, it goes to your life pool and it doesn't affect your Energy Shield or your Energy Shield recharge. Now, when you're using your mana, it uses your Energy Shield instead first if you have Energy Shield available. And if you are using mana, or if you're using Energy Shield, so you're casting spells, or if you're taking damage with Mind Over Matter, or if you're running Arctic Armor, which is constantly consuming mana, then your recharge won't kick in. Now, after a delay, depending on your amount of Energy Shield recharge delay reduction, your Energy Shield will start to recharge at a rapid rate. As I was saying at the start of this video, I don't think that playstyle, or focusing on the mechanics of Energy Shield to make viable spellcasting or viable attack-based builds, is currently workable in the beta. I don't think it is viable. The reason for this is that mana is a constantly regenerating thing, and you can get a large amount of mana regeneration much more efficiently than you can get a large amount of life regeneration. Energy Shield, on the other hand, instead gets a smaller amount but has a very rapid recharge after a longer delay. Now, you can reduce that delay heavily, and Invalesco was able to get it down to something like 2 seconds, but taking time out of combat when you're clearing maps quickly or clearing zones quickly for 2 seconds to not cast any spells whatsoever or not run Arctic Armor, or not take damage on Mind Over Matter, is not a very viable playstyle in terms of being an efficient character. It's not an efficient way to play at all. As I said, there may be some potential with things like totem builds or discharge builds or some sort of support builds that don't cast spells or use mana very often. This allows you to run an extra aura or potentially an extra 2 auras with potentially pretty efficient levels of investment in terms of passives and gear. So what is the core strength of the new Eldritch Battery? That is pretty much the ability to run an extra aura. With Eldritch Battery, you gain an extra mana pool on top of your mana pool. Energy Shield cannot be reserved with auras, but you can reserve all of your mana, or close thereto, and still be able to cast your spells. That is the main strength. I think the most popular use of Eldritch Battery currently, with the current design, will be to be able to fit an extra aura, or fit auras into your build more efficiently, or potentially go for less aura nodes, so have to stretch less far across the tree. Grab a few efficient nodes to make Eldritch Battery function, like I have, and then be able to run an extra aura. On my current character, I'm running the new Anger, which works with spells now, Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder, and I have almost 100% of my mana reserved. When I actually got this set up running, I reserved exactly 100% of my mana. I had 0 mana remaining, and I was still able to make Eldritch Battery work. Now my current setup is using reduced mana only on 2 of my auras. It's not actually using it on Herald of Thunder currently, and I have 1 aura node. That is all. I don't have the Templar aura nodes, and I don't have any of the other aura nodes around the tree. So I'm able to run 2 30% Heralds. Heralds can now reserve 30% in the beta, and a 60% with only 1 aura node and reduced mana. Reserving 100% of my mana, this wouldn't be viable if you're relying on mana. You would have to use a Blood Magic support gem, which does of course sacrifice a support gem slot, which depending on your build can be very, very damaging. Now let's switch on over and I'll show you guys my passive tree and how my character is set up to be able to make Energy Shield Eldritch Battery work so well. Okay, so here's my character. Now, in the background footage there, I was running this unique jewel just here that gives 2% extra life regeneration per second. My total life regeneration in this setup is 4.2. However, as you guys who have been watching my stream will know, that I was actually running this without this jewel. I was running this with 2.2% life regeneration, and it was perfectly viable as well. The only difference was that without this unique jewel, so with only 2.2 life regeneration, and I think I could do it with even less, you need to use Enduring Cry a little bit more. Enduring Cry has had its mechanics updated, and it is now a fantastic skill to use with Eldritch Battery. Enduring Cry now provides life regeneration, a short burst of life regeneration, but a very powerful burst every time you use it. So its base duration is 0.75 seconds, and it provides 262 life regeneration per second. So it's less than a second of regen, but it's a fairly large chunk of regen. Now on life, that doesn't really make much difference, and on first impressions, this won't really seem like much of a buff to Enduring Cry. But when it comes to Eldritch Battery, Zealot's Oath, this is a huge amount. I have 850 mana shield, Energy Shield at the moment, and obviously getting around 200 on a quick burst is more than enough to top up and offset any sort of lacking in my Energy Shield pool. So let's take a look at my passive tree investment. Even let's remove this because, as I said, it is viable for me to play without this jewel. So I can put something else in here, and I had, I've had some other jewels in here. I can put some crit and spell damage jewels in there, or I could put a life leech on spellcast jewel, like some of the new ones that have come up. So this is the investment I have in Eldritch Battery. I have the Eldritch Battery Keystone, so that's 1 node. I have Zealot's Oath, which is a 2nd node. Now, maybe you could go for different routing if it didn't take Zealot's Oath, but it doesn't work out too much in terms of the way I've structured my build anyway. And then I have the mana and life regeneration nodes just here, which is another 3 nodes, so that's a 5 nodes. Now Sanctity also has life regeneration on it, but Sanctity is such a good node that you pretty much always pick this up on a build that goes into Templar anyway, so I don't consider this invested specifically for Eldritch Battery, but even if you do, that's 6 nodes. Now if you include the jewel that I was running, that's an extra 7 or 8 nodes, because it would take 2 points to get down and get that jewel socket in my setup just here. So we're talking about 5 to 8 nodes of investment. Now as I was saying, it can run on less than this. I have tested without the jewel extensively, and it works just fine. You just need to use Enduring Cry a little more often, which is not bad at all, because then you're keeping up endurance charges. But I even think that I could probably drop these nodes just here and still run Zealot's Oath Eldritch Battery off 1% life regeneration and just Enduring Cry. Maybe you could even get away with doing it with just Enduring Cry, but I think that would be not super nice in terms of quality of life. Now I'm making it seem like life regeneration is a very scarce resource. It's not that hard to get life regeneration. There's tons and tons of extra ways of getting life regeneration outside of what I've done here. And there's been new uniques and new jewels and stuff that provide life regeneration as well. So there's heaps of other ways of getting it. Now in terms of gear investment, my character has not the best gear. Essentially the beta has no economy at the moment. You can sit and trade one for 10 minutes and not see a single post in there. So basically this is self-found, and my gear is, my gear is not that good. I don't have that much energy shield. It's very easy to obtain somewhere between 700 to 1000 energy shield with very average gear, just talking armor ES gear. So now to compare the investment that I've put into my character to make Eldritch Battery work, and the ability to get an extra aura, which by the way is pretty nice because I'm running a 3-link Glacial Cascade. I'm running Glacial Cascade with Spell Echo and Added Cold. This is Life Leech, so that's just for survivability. So I'm running essentially a 3-link damage-based Glacial Cascade, and it is absolutely wrecking. Now Glacial Cascade got a little bit of a buff, but it is wrecking on just a 3-link, thanks to the fact that I can also run Anger, which provides a hefty amount of extra flat fire damage to spells. So with my current Eldritch Battery setup, I'm able to run like a lot of damage without with very poor setup in terms of supporting Glacial Cascade for damage. So again, now let's compare this to mana, how I would run this build on mana. Now before I switched to Eldritch Battery, I was running on mana and I was starting to run out of mana. Now what I was doing to make that work is I had 6 nodes invest in mana, so I had things like Deep Thoughts and a few other mana nodes around the tree, just the efficient ones that you usually tend to cherry pick, and I was running a pretty high level of Clarity. Now, obviously I was running Clarity instead of Anger, but I couldn't level up my Clarity much further because I was starting to reserve too much of my mana. As you level up Clarity, it reserves more mana, so it was coming down further and further. And of course, when you're playing a mana-based build, you need to leave yourself with enough unreserved mana for your regeneration to take effect, and for you to be able to cast your skills. So with something that costs like, costs like 56 mana per cast, then you need to keep like 100-ish mana unreserved at the very least, so that you can efficiently cast that and still not run out of mana. You basically would need to fine-tune it so you never go out of mana. Now that was starting to stop working. So what I would have needed to do to keep mana working was I would have needed to get a fair bit of mana on gear. Of course, in the previous, I would have just used Eldritch Battery to convert my ES to mana, but that's not the way the game is going to be now. But I would have needed to invest a fair bit more in mana. I'm estimating another 4 or so passive nodes, and then I would have been able to level up my Clarity, and I probably would have been able to support my skills just fine there without running out of mana. Now the thing about that is, so I would have been able to do it with a little bit more investment than what I have in Eldritch Battery currently to make my character work on mana. So my current Eldritch Battery setup is, I would say, more efficient than what I would have been doing with mana. Now, of course, there are other options. You can get Mana Leech and stuff like that. Use Mana Leech on Jewels now, which is a nice option that can make mana a bit more attractive. But this is ignoring the fact that instead of running Anger, I was running Clarity. My damage was much lower when I was running Clarity. So is this character the most efficient possible use of Eldritch Battery? Is this like really highlighting the efficiency of Eldritch Battery? I don't think so. This is just a proof of concept character. I wanted to see that I could get Eldritch Battery working, and I wanted to see that there was the potential for it to be an efficient alternative to mana or blood magic. And I think that I'm pretty confident in the fact that the new Eldritch Battery design is actually pretty strong in some cases and can be quite efficient and can allow you to do some interesting things where you can min-max your aura investment, min-max the amount of auras that you can run, and create an efficient character in terms of passive tree and gear investment. So I'm very happy with the design of Eldritch Battery, at least from the Zealot's Oath point of view. As I said, the recharge delay style of Eldritch Battery is pretty useless. I'm also not super sold on Zealot's Oath, but I probably need to explore that option a little bit more. And there are a couple other ways you can run it, but at least Zealot's Oath Eldritch Battery is looking pretty strong. So my final word is that, yes, although this is viable and maybe even efficient and maybe even strong in some cases, it's not as good as the old Eldritch Battery. That's going to be the argument that a lot of people have, and I can certainly understand the amount of people that are upset with the Eldritch Battery change, because so many builds used it. The sheer number of people talking about the Eldritch Battery change, and the sheer number of people upset with the Eldritch Battery change, really goes a long way to suggest how strong Eldritch Battery was. Now the Keystone design in Path of Exile has a pretty strong theme to it. It's that either there's a significant drawback, or there is, so you have to build around it. You have to build around it. It takes a fair bit of investment to make it work. Every other Keystone has this. The only other exception that didn't have a real drawback, or you didn't really have to build around, was Ondar's Guile, but they have changed that as well. So Eldritch Battery was basically just a really efficient way to convert something that was not a very powerful defensive mechanic, having a bit of ES on top of your life, to a very powerful defensive mechanic, getting a bunch of mana that you can run easily Arctic Armor, that you can easily run Mind Over Matter with, and that you can also potentially get extra auras and extra spell casting done very, very efficiently. So it was super efficient, without any drawback, without any real need to build around it specifically. When you're talking about building around Eldritch Battery on the current live service, you're talking about taking advantage of the sheer amount of power that it gets you. And basically anyone in the area of Eldritch Battery was usually picking up Eldritch Battery. It was really ridiculously strong, so it's unsurprising that ZiggyD have changed it, and I think the idea of changing it, and the idea of changing it into a new mechanic and something more interesting, something with a potential drawback, something that you actually have to build around, is really good. Now, as I mentioned, I don't think it's finished. I do think it still needs some work, but I do think it has some potential, and I actually like the new design of Eldritch Battery. And guys, it was not an easy sale. I tried testing Eldritch Battery on leveling, and I was not happy with it. I was not happy with it at first, guys. I was not sold on it. But after actually using it and testing it out pretty extensively, I see the potential now. I see the potential, and I hope you guys do too. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. That is it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.